I will be interviewing Emily Shen. She is a UCSD alum, class of 2012. All right, so the first interview question is, in your opinion, what is a non-traditional student identity?
What is a non-traditional student identity? It's probably somebody who doesn't follow the typical path of a four-year college student. And this can be anyone from like a transfer student, even someone who's transferring in from community college, someone who took a year off in between high school and college, someone who, like yourself, took a few years off in the middle of college, anyone who's kind of following an atypical path.
Nice. Okay. For the second question, what advice would you give to a non-traditional student?
The advice that I would give to a non-traditional student would be to have confidence in who they are, and just because you are a non-traditional student doesn't make you any less of a student or any less successful than what would be a quote-unquote traditional student. I think in my current job, we deal with a lot of students who are facing that identity crisis because they feel like they don't belong. And from our perspective, that's completely untrue. So a lot of that can be an internal monologue that's happening that I think they just need to have confidence in themselves.
Nice. Okay. On to the third question. Being a UCSD alum, can you describe your college experience?
Sure. I think depending on who you ask, the UCSD experience can be vastly different. For me, my college experience was great. I met a lot of great friends. I feel like I got a lot out of my education, and I really enjoyed living here. There is a broad variety of students here, so I know some people can feel isolated or feel like perhaps they didn't meet the right people or didn't pick the right major or felt like they didn't belong in the school. It just depends on who you ask. But for me, it was great. I had a great time.
Nice. And I forgot to add part of that question.
Yeah.
Within your college experience, like, what do you think the main like demographic for age was for the people attending?
For age?
Mm-hmm.
Like throughout all 4 years, or?
Yeah. So like, was it mainly like people in your age group?
Oh, okay.
Was it like, did you see a lot of younger students or like a lot of older people or like
that I hung out with on a personal level, or?
Yeah, I mean like
just my experience.
Just your
what
experience.
I witnessed.
Yeah, your overall.
Just because I was, I guess, a traditional student, that is typically who I saw and who I was around. But I mean, I did see my fair share of students walking around who seemed much older than the rest of us. I also saw a lot of graduate students, so it's kind of hard to tell on a campus of 20,000 people who is truly a student and who isn't. I guess in that sense, it really did feel like I wasn't thinking about it as much, and even if you did see someone who wasn't a traditional student, I didn't really stop to think like, why are they here? It could have been for any various reason.
Okay. And for the next question, if you could go back in time, what would be one thing you could change about your college life or experience, or like what would you do differently?
I wish that I would have taken more classes that I was truly interested in, as opposed to classes that I thought it'll be easier, or this is just good for my major. Because I think by doing that, I could have discovered a lot of my passions a lot sooner, right? Learned a lot more different things. Like, for example, I wish I took a language class when you have the time and the opportunity to do so. Another thing would probably be study abroad.
Okay. And then, sorry, for the next question, what do you think about, like, nowadays a lot of like older people coming back and trying to finish school and going back to finish college. Like, what is your take on that?
I think that's great. I think for a lot of people, college is a life milestone, and older people who don't have their college degree typically feel either behind or they feel a chip on their shoulder, and to go back and complete college is really a personal accomplishment, which I think is great. College isn't easy by any means, especially if you're older and you're working, and you have more responsibilities. So for them to consider it that important enough for them to go back and achieve their goals, then I think that's commendable.
And this is kind of relatable to the previous question, but like, why do you think that, I guess, like, more non-traditional students are like more visible on campus now? Like, why do you think they're coming back now? Or like, has it been going on and it's just more noticeable today? Or do you think there's been this like shift of like more people coming back?
Statistically, is that true though? I wonder, like, do we know?
I don't know the
You
statistics.
don't know.
Yeah.
See, that's what I would be curious to know, because I don't know if there's more non-traditional students coming back, but maybe we are just noticing them more. And I think it depends on which college campus you're at too, because I'm sure like at a community college you're going to see a lot more non-traditional students versus a place like UCSD where you typically see more traditional students. I know that a lot of the universities are making a move to become more all-inclusive, which is why I think we can see a little bit more diversity in the type of students that we see in this population. College is kind of also a necessity now. I think everybody sees it as something you kind of have to get these days, which is great because students perhaps who may not have finished their college degree before are coming back to finish it. It's almost like it's like the new high school diploma, right? That could be why we're seeing an increase, or at least an increase in visibility as well. But I do think it's a shift in the college culture overall to want to get more types of students, just like we want to get more types of ethnicities, more types of backgrounds, because overall that is good for the campus too. That way students can get more experience, more perspectives, more relationships with different types of people.
Nice answer. Okay. As a UCSD alum, working for UCSD now, and going back and forth on campus and seeing what it's like now, like, what changes do you see happening, or like, what changes have you seen since, you know, you graduated, I guess?
Sure. I think the biggest change that I've seen, and especially because my job also includes talking to a lot of students that are coming in or about to graduate, at least it seems that students are much more driven these days. I think they realize that it is more competitive, that certain job markets are more difficult. Every student that I've talked to recently has a goal or a plan in mind already. When I was their age and with my friends and the people that I knew, that was definitely not the case. Everyone was doing well in school, but you kind of just assume that, oh, after college, I'll figure it out or it'll get figured out. Definitely not the case anymore. If you ask a student now, what do you want to do after you graduate? They have a solid answer already, even coming in as 18-year-old first years. I would say that's the biggest difference.
Cool. And then last question. Besides me, do you know any other like non-traditional students like in your life?
Sure. I have to think about that. I've known non-traditional students that have already graduated, like within my own family, or people that, like, I guess it depends on what you define as a non-traditional student. Like, I know Like some of my cousins transferred over to another school halfway through their college careers. A few took a year or two off and then went in. My own dad says his biggest regret was to not take a year off in between college and high school. So I definitely know a few, but I think your story is very interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's not like, because this is what you always wanted. I feel like a lot of people who take the non-traditional route just needed some time to figure out what they wanted to do, but with you really are a non-traditional student. Just sometimes life circumstances get in the way. Sorry, I don't know if that's sharing too much.
No, it's fine. Like, if I need to edit it,
you can edit it out, but I do consider
Yeah.
your situation unique, because most people, like, because they want to, like, drop out and they're not motivated, but you were always motivated. Just sometimes stuff happens.
Yeah, life happens.
Life happens, and I think that does happen to more people than we think it does. With the Chancellor's Associates program, so many of the transfer students that I've talked to have such a varied life path to get here. I guess the important thing is that they are here. So many people have so many things happen to them. It's natural that eventually at the college level that will start to infiltrate too, right?
That was the last question, but I kind of thought of something else really quick.
Sure.
So, like, you've known non-traditional students within your life and who've already graduated and stuff. So, I guess my question is, knowing that you took the traditional route and finished your college years in all 4 years, like, would you have changed that, or would you have kept it the traditional way, or would you, if you had the option to go the non-traditional way?
I would have loved to go the non-traditional way and do something with, like, let's say my time off, but thinking about who I was at 18, 19, 20, I just don't know if that would have been possible. If I could do it now and do that, I would love to. Especially armed with more knowledge, more experience, more confidence in who I am, to follow a non-traditional path, right? Because non-traditional students, I think, are also hungrier for their futures. So you do take more advantage of the opportunities that are given. I have to say, at that age, I didn't. So yeah, I would. Would I have been mature enough to handle it? That I don't know. That takes a specific kind of person.
I think you would have been fine. I think you would have been mature and fine. Alrighty, I mean, I think that concludes all of the interview questions. Thank you for your time, and yeah, thank you.
Yay!